Hey everyone, Cowbunger here. I'm gonna talk about some of the Multiversus news that has been coming out. We've been waiting for news and they are slowly trickling things in as the weeks go by here. It's probably just starting to ramp up, but I figured I'd talk about the gameplay footage that you are seeing right now because there have been a lot of opinions being put out about this gameplay, mainly negative. But I want to give my take on it, of course, because I always look at things negatively. I usually try my best to be as objective as possible when I'm seeing things and all that good stuff. So let's get into it. We're going to talk about the gameplay first, and then we'll talk about all the little tidbits from other things that we've seen, even as recently as a couple of minutes ago, as I'm recording this video at least. So the gameplay video. The main opinion that I've been seeing, there's two main opinions. One of them, we knew about one of the things that a lot of people are talking about since the dev update post that they showed off like a month ago. And one of the other things was something that wasn't so obvious, but it makes sense once you think about it. Number one is that the character models are bigger, and it's a little weird. It's definitely going to take some getting used to. The big things that these increased character models are going to do, they're going to make it so that you're probably going to end up hitting people more, which is probably a good thing, honestly, because I'll get into it later, but one of my problems with Multiversus was that I wasn't able to hit people a lot. Number two is that the increased player models are going to make it easier for spectators to watch this game. One of the very big things that we all know that the team at Player First Games is trying to push is the esports side of this game. They are really pushing for that 2v2 element because that is unique for the platform fighting game genre to push that, and they are pushing for this to be a spectator game. And as far as I can tell, one of the main things that they're really trying to address with gameplay changes is to make it easier to tell what is going on when you're watching the game. So that's certainly interesting. I think between them switching engines, which I think is more of a performance slash netcode thing, but still it helps the visuals of the game. Between that and then again doing things like increasing the player models and doing this other thing we're about to talk about, I think it's trying to make the game easier to understand while you're watching it. But the other thing, obviously, is just that character movement from this short little snippet of gameplay seems to be slower. And again, it kind of makes sense when you consider that all the character models are pretty significantly bigger than they were before. It makes sense in a way. I kind of looked at it right, and my first reaction was definitely like, oh god, jeez. This game is already relatively slow, and now they're making it a lot slower, right? They're making it... It just felt like, at first view, that the game was worse in every way. On a gameplay level, it just looked like it was somehow, with this break, worse than it was before. But as I looked at the gameplay over and over again, I started to realize, and I really tried to look at what the characters are trying to do. I'm trying to see how the players are playing the game, and I'm starting to realize, thinking back at how I played Multiversus and stuff, it's like, man, what's going on the screen here is basically exactly what happened during the beta. Like, all the stuff that I'm seeing here pretty much is happening in the exact same way as it did within the beta. So even though things appear to be slower, for me, it's not really actually slower because I'm still seeing people zip across the screen sometimes with special moves. I still am seeing characters doing their combos, like Finn's still doing Finn combos, Batman's still doing his Batman stuff, and Garnet's certainly still Garnet, Wonder Woman's still doing her stuff. Like, it really feels like even though maybe movement speed might be slower across the board, it doesn't seem like it's hindering the gameplay in any significant way. Ultimately, it might just come down to the character models just being bigger, kind of balancing out that slower movement speed, but there is no denying, especially like when characters are in the air, it really does sometimes look like that things are just moving in slow motion. It feels like everybody's on the moon. There's no gravity to anything, and that's kind of how the old game kind of was, but it just feels a little more noticeable here. So I guess then, with that being said, the thing that we have to ask is all this stuff, all these changes that they've made worth it? Are these things going to actually end up improving the game in any significant way between gameplay, between spectators watching it, and whatever else? To me, I think it makes a bit of a difference to spectators for sure to see that the character models are bigger. I'm thinking that overall the changes that they've made really haven't actually done anything to the game, in my opinion. It just feels like, you know, these are kind of some band-aid solutions to some problems that really should have been tackled in other ways, in my opinion. Just if, for example, if the game is kind of hard to spectate, even with a lot of the accessibility things that they have, like the outlines, for example, making it very obvious where each character's at, I still think that you know, there are some other ways to make things visible, make things entertaining to watch. That's the really big thing, right? It's not just with Multiversus a problem that it's hard to tell what's going on in the game, but just in general, the things that you're looking at while watching the game have to be kind of entertaining to look at. And I've never felt like excited to watch Multiversus gameplay. When I look at something like Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2 gameplay, for example, now stuff like that is just pretty hype just based on its gameplay mechanics with how the animations and physics work. It feels like the game is very grounded, and it feels like there's a lot of weight to a lot of the attacks. Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2 does a very good job of showing what a platform fighting game can do to generate hype while you're watching it. It's pretty fun to play, but I really like watching it too. I think that it's very easy to understand on a gameplay level what exactly is going on because of a bunch of different like visual effects. Like when there's a slime cancel, there's a pause and a big visual effect. You can tell what's going on. When there's EX moves happening, you can tell that it's an EX move, etc, etc. When you see gameplay of this game, you can kind of, with all of the HUD elements, see what's going on, but it is very cluttered. And overall, the gameplay feels very cluttery because there are 4 characters on the screen, and every single time they're attacking each other, there's no real weight to anything that they're doing. And the animation work is very like slapstick style, but I'm not exactly sure if it works because of 2 big reasons. And I'll just say right off the bat that yeah, there are some animations in this game that look really good. Like the main ones that I always think of are the grounded attacks in this game. Like they usually look good, but as soon as characters go into the air, for me that's when things start to fall apart. I think it's just because again they're trying to take this maybe more slapstick Looney Tunes animation style, make it super smooth, and then trying to apply it to characters that just do not get affected by physics at all. It almost seems like because the characters don't get affected by physics in the way that we are expecting them to, that the animation falls flat because of it. You know, one thing that's always bothered me that I think is contributing to how I'm feeling is that when characters do aerial attacks, they kind of like land on the ground, but they're still doing their aerial, and that never has felt right. It's never felt right, and I kind of get why they do it. I guess they just do it so that it's easier to land with an aerial. You don't really have to time it or whatever. You can charge aerials in the game, so you can like charge it all the way just before you hit the ground and then hit somebody on the ground. On a gameplay level, I get it, but when characters do not interact with their environment in the way that you think they would, then things just end up just not feeling right. Like again, between characters feeling completely weightless, and therefore, since they look weightless, their attacks kind of look weightless too. They kind of don't look like they have as much impact as they should. Then on top of that, when they're landing on the ground and their moves are still going, just makes for a bunch of visually confusing stuff. And I can completely understand how people can have a hard time watching the game because of all these different things that you just kind of have to get used to. for sure, once you play the game or once you've watched it a couple times, then I think you can get used to it. But on a spectator level, if you're watching the game for the first time, it just kinda looks weird. I don't know, like I've seen that they've tried to make the hit stop longer so that some moves really feel like they have some impact to them, but at the same time, to me, I'm looking at the gameplay and I'm just thinking, man, it's slow. Nothing really feels super impactful no matter what. So that's kind of the problem that Player First Games is facing here, where they've made changes that they thought would maybe make things better on a spectator level, but really, it's just making the game look more boring. They're in a really tough spot because unless they kind of like drastically change some things about the game, I don't know exactly what they're going to do to alleviate a lot of the problems that they're trying to fix. It seems like a lot of the changes that they've made aren't exactly going to be the ones that end up changing the perspective of any of the critics that they had. Any of the people who looked at the gameplay and said, I don't know what's going on, they're still going to feel that way. So yeah, I don't think it's really been worth it to do any of the changes that they've done, which is a big shame because I can tell that a lot of the changes that they've made probably have taken a significant amount of work. Probably out of everything that they worked on, the gameplay was the thing that they worked on the least, and I don't know if they're gonna save that for when the game is actually playable. That seems like a good idea if that is their idea, but yeah, I mean, for now, gameplay to me looks exactly the same, and if they were trying to address any criticisms with the gameplay, I don't think any of them were addressed. I think that no matter what, I've seen a lot of expectations for the gameplay of this game to be significantly different for some reason during this break. At no point has Player First Games or anybody like Tony, for example, ever said that during this break that they are going to take the time to modify gameplay in a significant way. Unless I'm not seeing things from like beta testers like Netcode or something who said otherwise. I mean, a lot of the stuff that the devs have said has been aiming towards making the netcode better and among other things, but not really gameplay. It seemed like the break was mainly for them to figure out what's wrong with the netcode, how to make it better, and then from there just develop new content for the game so that when they come back they have probably like a hopefully significant amount of new content added to the game. Again, I personally never got the impression that they were going to change the gameplay. It seemed like gameplay was something that they weren't exactly going to budge on, and they weren't going to change physics or movesets too heavily or anything like that. It just seems like so far that they're just adding on to movesets, again with the example of dash attacks. So they're just adding on to the already crazy movesets. I know that's something that people had gripes on, were how crazy the movesets were in Multiversus, but I don't know if they're really leaning away from anything that they were doing with the gameplay before. Let's just real quick, before I get off of this, talk about this clip here where we see that the netcode is doing a lot better apparently. You can see that this is a game with 150 ping, not ideal at all. Usually you want your ping to be in like the 20s or 30s or something like that. And you can see that the gameplay is running smoothly despite the ping being high, which is a good sign. Now, me personally, I have to play it to believe it, because Player First Games also touted their netcode as Multiversus was starting in beta. Now, obviously they said it was a work in progress, but they thought that it was good as it was, and then every single time an update came out for the game, the netcode absolutely exploded, and you'd be teleporting everywhere. Even on days where new content didn't come out, like there were times where you just teleported and got flung off the screen or whatever. So the netcode was not the best, and based off what I'm seeing here, I'm hoping that, again, another reason why the gameplay might actually be slower is because of the netcode, is so that the netcode can basically just be a bit easier to program, because if characters are moving slower, then it might be easier to predict where they're going to go with the netcode. Rollback is a whole crazy thing to explain, but yeah, basically, rollback just tries to predict your movements, and then if it's wrong, then it rolls back. And that rollback effect might cause skipping and stuff like that, but as far as I can tell, throughout this gameplay and some of the other clips that they've shown showing off the netcode, that there is not going to be skipping, so let's hope for that. That definitely was one of my biggest problems with Multiversus, is that the netcode was not stable. It just wasn't. There were days where I played it where it felt perfectly fine, but again, usually the days with new content were the ones that were really rough, and it just sucks because the days where new content is added are the days where people are going to want to play the game. So for those days to be the ones where it's specifically really hard to try and play the game was rough. It was demotivating for sure. Hopefully, we just gotta cross our fingers and hope and hope and hope that it's better this time around. Judging by the decisions that they've made, it has to be better. There's no way that it's not going to be better. If it's not, then that's crazy. That's all I've got to say. What do I actually think about the gameplay of Multiversus? Well, before, I thought it was fine, so I'm probably going to think it's fine here too. One of my biggest gripes with the beta of Multiversus was that the dodging, man, in 1v1 specifically, because in 2v2s, dodging isn't as significant, but in 1v1s, dodging was all you ever really did, right? You dodged, you tried to attack, and then your opponent dodged, and then they tried to attack, and then you dodged. My god. It was a dodge fest. It just felt like there wasn't a real neutral, there wasn't a real advantage or disadvantage state, because a dodge could change anything. It all depended on how you used your dodge. The dodge was super over-centralized, in my opinion, and as far as I can tell, it still kind of is from this gameplay, but again, it's a 2v2. I don't really care about what the dodges are like in 2v2s. It's a lot less significant of a thing in 2v2s just because you have two people to hit, potentially. So it's not so bad. You can run in with a move, fly in with a move, and potentially at least hit one person. But in 1v1s, man, I don't know. Dodges were super potent, and I'm hoping that there is something there that balances it to a crazy degree. Like, make it a super limited resource in 1v1s at the very least. That's what I would like to see, personally. Other than that, you know, Multiversus is what it is. It's a bit of a floaty game. Bit of a, I don't know, a mess in a way. But as you're playing it, it kind of makes sense. You can do some pre-baked combos. There's no teching, so you can like bounce people off the ground. I love doing shaggy combos. So like the combo system is overall fun. The 2v2 aspect is overall pretty fun. If it wasn't for the 2v2 aspect, there wouldn't really be a reason for me to play the game, honestly, outside of the characters. But I think the 2v2 elements and how the game revolves around it is pretty fun. And again, 1v1s kind of suffers for that in a way through all the systems that are there. They just don't work for a 1v1 environment, and I'm hoping that that gets worked on, because 1v1 shouldn't be neglected just because 2v2 is the focus. I think 2v2s could probably be improved too with, I don't know, specific changes to airspeed and stuff like that, gravity. Like, I do agree with a lot of things that people say about the game, but I don't think it's detrimental. I don't think it makes the game unfun. I just think that it could make the game better if they focused on not everybody being so super duper floaty. Like, at the very least, you can have some characters that feel floaty, but make others feel different from one another. You know what I mean? My thoughts are that the game looks the same, despite the little tiny changes that are noticeable. It still seems like Multiversus is playing exactly like Multiversus. If you didn't like Multiversus before, you're not going to like it now. That's the message that they have sent with this gameplay, and I kind of liked playing Multiversus, so I'm okay with this. But some other people are not going to be, and I guess that's fine, because it seems like the marketing for this game over these past couple weeks has been catering towards new players, towards getting people who have never heard of Multiversus before to just get that name in their head to recognize, oh, okay, Multiversus is a thing. And then since the game's going to be free to play, once it is out, then these people can go check it out whenever it is up. But I would definitely say that no matter what, the marketing would be a lot more effective if the game was actually out. You know, like, sure, you can do your McDonald's collaboration, you can do your NHL collaboration, which is so weird to me, because I seen something on Twitter from good old B-Dupe that I completely agree with, that, you know, if you're gonna do a collaboration with any sports league, why the hell wouldn't it be basketball? You literally have LeBron James in the game, you have Space Jam stuff, you have a Space Jam stage with, like, basketball stuff in it. I mean, I just don't get it. I don't. Yeah, the marketing of this game is just odd, and so far, everybody's just been getting very negative about the game, and I'm here to say that, well, yeah, I really don't think that they're gonna be grabbing anybody who was on the fence about the game, right? Like, those players who played it, didn't like it, but was maybe interested to see what the game would become with this relaunch, they're gone again. They're not gonna try out the game when it re-releases, for sure, which I guess is fine, because ultimately Multiversus is a bit more of a casual game. What they want is for casuals to play the game, to recognize the characters, and to play a game that isn't super technical, that they can get better at if they want to get better at, that has some kind of competitive edge. And on top of that, they want the casuals to buy cosmetics and the season passes and stuff like that, all the monetary bullcrap that, you know, they're going to put into the game that was already there in a freaking beta. They're going to be going tenfold with a full release probably. So, but other than seeing some stuff about the netcode and seeing 2 minutes worth of gameplay, we have also gotten some footage from TikTok, which, yeah, I'm not surprised by that. We see what appears to be the Dexter's lab stage that they showed off on the dev update video. No longer concept art, it is in-game, so, I mean, I'm not surprised by that. They showed off concept art like, oh, this is in development, but as it turns out, it's probably going to be a part of full launch, which I'm excited for that. There seems to be like a conveyor belt, so that's a cool little gimmick for the stage, that there's going to be platforms that move you around and stuff. I don't really have much to say other than that, though, because we don't get to really see a ton of the stage at all. And of course, we have like a little tweet here saying that there's going to be new characters and stuff. We all know this, but I guess they're going to really ramp up the character reveals starting now. Let's hope so, because I think this game needs a shot in the arm. It needs something to make people excited for the game, because, yeah, at this point, a lot of people are not happy about this game. What do you think? Do you think that Multiversus is in the mud once again, that this whole break that they took was completely pointless, or are you going to wait and see with new characters? Are you going to wait to see what new features they've added to the game? There's still a lot of stuff they haven't talked about. They haven't talked about the PvE mode, for example. That could be a game changer in a way, to add a lot of replayability to the game outside just like leveling up characters and playing as whoever you want, upgrading the season pass and all that good stuff. Have you always liked Multiversus? Or are you just excited that it's going to come back, that you're going to be able to play it again? Just let me know. Leave a like on the video since you've made it this far. I appreciate it. One more thing I want to do, I don't normally do this, but I want to direct you to a video that came out yesterday, my moveset analysis for Peach and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Those types of videos take a lot of effort, so I would appreciate it if you jumped from this video over to that one after leaving a like on this one. If me dissecting movesets and trying to explain why certain moves are great within a character's kit is something that you're interested in, then go ahead and hop over to that video. I would appreciate it. Thank you to my channel members, StreamU, Salt Levels Max, Nova, Colby, and EXO for your continued support. I appreciate you guys. I might as well talk about my next video that's coming up, which is going to be Plat Fighter News Alert. I have recorded a lot of stuff for that video, but I still need to do a little bit more now because of this Multiversus stuff. But yeah, I will get to editing that. That'll probably release next week at some point, to be excited for that. And I'm sure if more Multiversus news comes out, I will be covering that as well. And I'll see if I can get a live stream in here too, something like that, I don't know. I'm working full-time. Things are getting crazy. It's hard to sit down and record stuff, but I'm gonna continue to try and do it because I like making videos for you guys. I think I'm done talking now. It's been, well, we're getting close to half an hour now. See you guys on the next video. Bye.